Welcome to Dubs Talk Live. I'm Zena, your host, alongside Warriors reporter Dalton Johnson. We're here to talk. The Warriors lost tonight against the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors are now 0-3 against the Sun, dropping another one on the road. This is their sixth straight, road game that they've lost. They have also lost a player that we're going to talk about in tonight's game, but ultimately losing 116 to 119. Another close crunch time loss for the Warriors. Weren't able to pull this out on the road. Dalton, initial thoughts on the game?
Another inexcusable loss in my mind, especially when you look at the Suns not having Kevin Durant, not having Grayson Allen, not having Nasir Little, losing Josh Okogie. So look, the Suns were the ones who were shorthanded this time. We've seen how shorthanded the Warriors have been, but obviously they were more shorthanded as the game went on with Draymond Green's ejection. But again, overall, for everything, the way that the cards were stacked against the Suns compared to the Warriors, the way that the Warriors lost their composure, especially with one player that we'll get into, another just inexcusable, frustrating loss for the Golden State Warriors.
All right, well, let's not waste any time. This is the flail heard around the NBA, or maybe slow mode around the NBA late in the fourth quarter as Draymond Green was attempting to sell a foul. As Dalton, you mentioned earlier in postgame live, Nurkic was baiting him here, holding on to him, looking to bait him and sell that foul. Draymond roundhouse flailed and ended up hitting Nurkic against the head, leading to a flagrant true foul being called and his eventual ejection. He did not return for the game. Nurkic did come back in the game and participated in the fourth quarter. But the question now remains, what will happen with Draymond Green? Thoughts originally on the actual altercation or the incident, excuse me.
That it can't happen. I mean, how many times is Draymond Green going to say that he has to be on the court for the Warriors to reach their potential, for them to be the team that they want to be? And once again, Draymond Green is not on the court when it matters most. The Warriors held a 65-60 lead on the Suns when Draymond Green was ejected. They then went into the fourth quarter down by 1 point. They then lost by 3 points. So following the ejection, they were a -8 after Draymond Green's ejection. They were just starting to get going a little bit, right? So there's no need for what Draymond Green did. There's no need for yet another ejection. Right. Yes, Nurkic did bait him. And yes, Nurkic won. He won the battle.
Absolutely.
He won the battle. He won the war. Look, Draymond Green can talk about how he was being fouled, how Nurkic was around his hip, all that. There's no reason to come in here, throw your arms up, do what you need to do, flop, I don't care.
Yeah.
Anything besides that. There is absolutely no reason for it. And once again, we have to be talking about this. And I think that's my biggest frustration, probably Steve Kerr's biggest frustration, hopefully Draymond Green's teammates' biggest frustration, is the fact that we even have to be talking about this right now. It has to be exhausting for all parties involved.
Including Draymond. But you mentioned the whole league is watching. Not only the league officials, but the league is watching. And they saw Nurkic win this battle to get into the mind of Draymond Green, get him baited, and then get him ejected. And if it's that easy, it is an issue. Let's hear what Draymond Green had to say about the incident and the rest of this game.
I mean, Steve told us that in the first day of camp. Really, wasn't the first day of camp. It could have been before camp. We have a very deep team, and he's going to go with the players that are playing with him. But shit, I was -15. So, you look at, you look at our bench, they're all pluses down there. So, I probably would have got benched too. Had the event not happened because it's clear. We were struggling. So, and yet, Klay's +4 on the night. So, it's not something that I'm shocked by because, you're trying to find a rhythm, you're trying to win games and just trying to go with the guys that are playing well and producing. So I don't look too far into who's benched or whatnot. You're just trying to find lineups that work. And I respect, Steve's calls on it.
Nurkic was just asked about the play. And he said that brother needs help. What's your response to that?
Respect. I still know what my intentions were. But respect, I think we all need him. I think any of us are too perfect. So respect. But I'll tell him the same thing I just told you. I'm gonna apologize to him that I didn't intend to do. So he has a right to feel how he wants to feel. I'm not gonna stare and try to go back and forth on how he feels about it. So
been a guy in the past, like he says, hey, we're gonna look at the playoffs last year, right? Come back and we're gonna start in the middle of the year, you're gonna come on the bench and things like that. And that's what said, you've always been very open to that, go with the flow, okay with that. For other guys, I mean, Klay was just talking to us and how so it was very strange for him not to close and was physically upset on the bench. How, I know you're not inside Klay's head, but how does a guy who, how do you check your ego and your pride sometimes in those moments just for what has to happen to win?
I don't think, I don't think anyone's overly worried about someone being upset that they're not playing because we're competitors. When you work ultimately to play these games and put a great product on the floor and play great, because that's the job, right? Like, so I don't think anyone's overly worried about someone being upset that they're not playing, because we're all competitive, but I mean, as far as ego goes, egos always have to be checked on a team because it's a team sport and it's made up of individuals. And the goal is always to make the sum of those parts work together. And, sometimes it goes better than others. And that's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. But I think, for Klay, and for anybody in this situation, the number one goal for everyone just has to be to win. Whether that's you're playing, you're not playing, the number one goal of a team in order for a team to be successful is it has to be to win the game. And you figure out everything else after. But I don't think Klay's ever had to deal with that. And so your first time dealing with that is different, and your reaction, you never know how you're going to react to something like that until you go through it, and so that's foreign territory for Klay. I think anyone's mad that he was upset about it. You don't want somebody to just go sit there and like, oh, it don't matter. You want guys that's going to compete. You respect.
It's so interesting to hear him say, the number one goal is to win and we're all competitive and no one's going to complain. You can just see and hear the leadership from a basketball perspective in that lane. But parallel to that exact conversation that he's having, you think about his actions tonight. And those don't align. It's almost like you have to compartmentalize some of his actions about not making the goal to be on the floor with his team and winning, knowing that he's having an impact on that. I struggle sometimes with the separation of his amazing leadership as putting the team first, but then also doing the things that he has done throughout this season that have cost him the ability to stay on the court.
Yeah, I wish I had an answer right now, right? It's hard to watch at times because, again, of course Draymond wants to be on the court. Of course Draymond has years of being a champion, years of being a great leader, but this isn't being a great leader.
Right.
And I think intentions are one of those words where you almost don't want to hear it at times.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't my intention to hit him. It wasn't my intention to this. And I'm not going to question that, but at the same time, then what was your intention? If your arm's flying high like that, above the neck, which is going to get you a flagrant 2 no matter what, then what was the intention? If you really want to show that you're being fouled, that your hips being grabbed like that, there's so many other ways to go about it.
Sure.
But sometimes we know what a competitor he is, but the frustrations can't outweigh competitiveness.
Yeah.
There has to be a better balancing line between those two things.
And you make a great point about, that's what I'm thinking about, the compartmentalization of like, you hear this, but it's like, how much weight does it carry if this is the action that, is behind it? But there's one person in particular that I think about, hears this, and then sees his actions, and that's his teammate, Steph Curry. We can hear exactly what he has to say. He's actually at the podium now.
I always say about our team, like all the pieces fit for a reason. They have for a very long time. So when you're missing one, it's tough. We still had opportunities to win the game tonight. I actually well in the second half. We have some mixed up lineups, and we're trying to find the chemistry. Our bench played amazing, like again. So we want to be able to overcome the incident, his ejection, but we just weren't able to get it done. But we need everybody available. That's how we're built. It's no secret to our success.
Steve said that tonight, not other times that the bench has come and impressed you guys. It's just the point of the season. Do you feel like there's a silver lining to that, or is that no concern?
Want to play better. They've done a great job of coming in with energy and impact of the game, changing the momentum. They've done it twice in this building. So same conversations that we've had before. We gotta make necessary adjustments. It's frustrating that we're not playing the way we want to. But you like the guys playing with confidence when they come in. It's a full team effort.
Steve pretty aggressively changed up his rotation tonight. Obviously, you got 3 more starters on the bench at closing time. Did you feel like it was time to do that?
That's a coach. We said from the jump, being a seasoned coach has to coach and knowing the options that we have. But he's talking about playing guys that are playing the best, giving us the best shot. And he's had some regrets early in the year with individual games, but tonight he really didn't have much going. So there are going to be tough decisions. That's the nature of business, the nature of trying to sustain this level of winning. It doesn't mean you lose confidence in anybody. It's just, the results are what they are, and you have to be realistic about it. The things that need to change to get us where we want to be, but it's still going to involve everybody. So I was an indication of that.
Steph and Vitamins, before the game, you shared a pretty special moment with one of our local fans of yours named T. Can you tell us about that moment and how that came to be?
Obviously he's a huge fan. He's a special person. I've seen the video of the shot, the reaction from everybody in the gym, the whole school, and the surprise that he received in class. He was going to come here. All those moments are awesome. I had to come watch shoot around before. Hopefully had a great time with the game and his family. And I appreciate, the passion of him being a basketball fan, a basketball player, his goals that he set for himself. That's what basketball can do. Brings so many people together, provides inspiration. And another 5 minutes, I got to talk to him, hopefully. Changed, cemented that impact that you can have through the game of basketball. So it's pretty dope.
Steph, you said the other day.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm just thinking, we didn't mention this. Draymond alluded to it. You alluded to it as well. Draymond did say that, that it was not his intention to hit Nurkic. He also said that it was unfortunate as he sold the foul. He apologized to Nurkic multiple times. And what I appreciated is that he did not argue the foul. He admitted in his post-game press conference that, when you look at it, it was an excessive hitting or excessive contact for the category of flagrant 2. And as you saw in the game, he ran off the court and accepted his, accepted the calling to leave the game. So that is a silver lining, I think, in that situation. But I think that is it. For now, we hold our breath and see what the league will do in terms of the outcome. But we have some bigger things to talk about, like the performances of his teammates. So let's talk on the other side of this break about the things that deserve the spotlight. Not this ejection, but rather the play of the bench and the youth. Warriors youth stood up for the team tonight, excuse me. We'll talk about that on the other side of this break when we get back.
Dubs Talk Live is presented by Mancini's Sleep World. Visit Mancini's Sleep World during the year-end clearance event or visit sleepworld.com.
No worries. Sorry about that, YouTube fam. We were having some issues on our end, and I'm trying to hear and then also talk, and that is never a good combination. Let's move on. Let's just move on, okay? Let's just move on. Let's just move on. Let's just move on. Let's just move on, okay? I do think that there are a lot more issues at hand that the Warriors have to figure out in terms of having these big, I wouldn't even say big leads, but playing really well and well enough to win these games, and yet continuing to drop games in crunch time, not being able to close, not being able to win games or keep leads enough to sit their starters and be able to relax.
Yeah,
there's only 2 games I can think of that they did that with. That was the first Thunder game. No, not the first Thunder game. The Pelicans game. There's a Pelicans game, and then I think there was the second Thunder game, I think, where they actually ended up beating them by like 15 or something, like 120-109 or something like that. But they haven't been able to just chill, you know?
Not at all.
I think that's more important in general. Draymond or not, what is happening with the Warriors? I mean, that's not a question we have to answer right now. But I think that is the thing that they need to look in the mirror and assess.
The bench gave a 13-point lead in the second quarter. The starters came back in, and next thing you know, all of a sudden it's a 1-point game. I mean, that's what it's been pretty much the entire season. It's not the bench. It's not the youth. It is the guys who have been there and done that, the guys who have won a championship minus Steph Curry.
Yeah.
And that is a huge concern. Obviously, the spotlight is Draymond Green, but it's a lot more than just Draymond Green.
Facts. All right. Welcome back to Dubs Talk Live. The Warriors lost to the Suns tonight, 116-119. That game was close, and you can thank the bench for that. The bench ended up 80-30, outscoring the Phoenix bench 80-30 by 50 points. They also had the majority of the positive attributes throughout this evening. But we want to talk about a particular player, the BMW Ultimate Performer of the night. Got his first double-double. That is Brandon Podziemski. Brandon Podziemski ended up tonight 18 points, 11 rebounds. Absolutely phenomenal on both ends of the court. A career high 20 points, 11 rebounds, 5 offensive boards as well, and then 5 assists to add on top of that. I mean, he was having his way, and we've been seeing this, but tonight it was really on display.
Brandon Podziemski was awesome tonight, and none of this is a surprise. None of this is new. This is not a one-time thing. This has now been consistent with Brandon Podziemski. There have only been 3 rookies this season who in one game have scored 15-plus points, 10-plus rebounds, 5-plus assists. Brandon Podziemski, Victor Wembanyama, Chet Holmgren. That's the 3. Those
Good
first
company to be in.
Those first 2 guys are seen obviously as the leaders for Rookie of the Year. They are seen as transcendent players. They're seen as the next unicorns. And then there's Brandon Podziemski, who just always brings the energy for the Warriors. You see him, getting the charges. You see him getting the offensive rebounds. I love the offensive rebounds. One of my favorite things to watch with Brandon Podziemski actually is during free throws, where he's not taking the free throw, where he's behind the three-point line, and he's just waiting. He's seeking. He's like Brian Dawkins playing free safety back in the day for the Eagles. Just waiting to get in there and goes and gets the rebound.
If there's some Niners fans watching, they're like,
I'm
really?
sorry for bringing up the Eagles, my guys, but Brian Dawkins, Brian Dawkins, I'm saying that's what it's about. He is like this seek and destroy type of player. He's a nonstop missile on the basketball court. It is just fun to watch for a team that's aging, a team that's getting older, a team that has lacked energy at times.
Yeah.
Brandon Podziemski is the answer for that so many times, and I was really happy to see him close at the end of the game there for Steve Kerr for the Warriors.
About Brandon Podziemski is not only his performance, but also his evaluation of the way that they played. And he mentioned in his postgame that there was mental lapses and also a lack of energy. And it's interesting, you could look at that kind of assumption or kind of evaluation of the game and apply it to some of the starters. And you look at Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins, Kevon Looney, and what was missing there was that energy and also the focus, it seemed. It just didn't seem as if they were really engaged with the game in the way that they needed to be. Klay Thompson even mentioned that he deserved to be sat at the end of the game to close the game. It was probably a weird feeling for him. It was probably a weird feeling for a lot of the starters, but with the Podziemski playing the way that he was alongside his bench, it made sense. So let's talk about Klay and Andrew, because those are two very big factors when it comes to what's going on with this Warriors team. You look at tonight with Klay Thompson's contribution, Andrew Wiggins' contribution, and then you also look at Kevon Looney and Draymond for the time that he was on. Total of 12 points here between the two of them, 10. Combined, 2 of 11 from 3 and a 3 from 17 from the floor in over 30 minutes combined. I mean, that's not enough when you think about what Steph needs from his surrounding castmates to be able to play and win games. Klay Thompson saying it was strange, Anthony Slater from The Athletic, it was strange to be benched to close the game, but he deserved to be benched. I've been playing like crap. He said he wasn't giving an explanation, but I trust Steve. I trust Steve now and forever will. Wow, sounds like some marriage vows, but what I will say is it's real. And it's a very honest and an aware and reflective response to being benched. And the question is, we've seen a Klay Thompson have slow starts. In past years, he's had slow starts to seasons. But this is starting to look deeper than that. And you look at some of the things that Steve is doing, do you think that might be able to motivate a Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins to be able to get out of their slump that they're in right now?
Well, a better motivate. I mean, I think the biggest silver lining tonight, honestly, was the fact that Steve Kerr did sit those guys at the end of the game. The fact that he did send a message to Klay Thompson, to Andrew Wiggins, to Kevon Looney, honestly to his entire team. Because Steve Kerr has said, weeks past, even at the start of the season, that the hot hand is who's going to close games. We always talk about it doesn't matter who starts, it matters who finishes. And that's, again, very eye-opening for me to see is the fact that Andrew Wiggins didn't play 1 second in the fourth quarter. He played 5 minutes in the second half. Yep. In the last 2 games, Andrew Wiggins has 9 turnovers and 5 made shots. This is somebody who was the Warriors' second best player in the NBA Finals just a year and a half ago. Yeah. So, again, I think that this is a great message to send. It's great for whether you're a veteran, whether you're a young player. You need to see that the best players at that time are who needs to be on the floor at the end of the games. There's one player who should be signed in to be in the closing lineup, and that's Steph Curry. Sure, in a perfect world, there'd be 2 players. That's Draymond Green. But if you can't rely on him to be on the floor every single game, only one player, Steph Curry, is the one and only Warrior who should be guaranteed night in and night out, game in and game out, to be in that closing lineup. After that, whoever has the hot hand, whoever's playing the best defense, whoever's bringing the energy, that is who can be around Steph Curry as well.
And that is the thing that Steve Kerr is starting to show the youngsters. Even Trace Jackson-Davis getting some minutes tonight as well, alongside, of course, the great performances of JK, Moody, Pods, and then Dario Saric. And we haven't even discussed the fact that Chris Paul came back tonight and had himself a game as well. But this is the new era, potentially. That's what might be happening. On the other side of this break, we're going to see who else they're going to be going against to contend against the Clippers. Who else may they put into the lineup? Who else may be able to shake things up for the Warriors? Don't go anywhere. It is Dubs Talk Live. So I want to continue the conversation around Klay Thompson.
Yes.
Because Oh, also, by the way, when you were talking about BP being in the same boat as Chet and Wemby, and I was like, yeah, and he's also, 8 inches shorter than them? They're both 7-footers, and he's in the conversation with that. Like, that is insane.
He's listed at 6'5". Brandon, my guy, you might be a little
I'm 6'5" in my heels.
Shorter.
Listen.
Just a little bit.
I'm solidly like 6'5" in the right heel. We'll do another on-court interview. We'll check that out. We'll see. But no, I mean, that's impressive. Like, people forget Brandon Podziemski was the leading rebounder as a guard in his conference.
Over 8 rebounds a game in college.
Yeah, like, it's insane.
Yes.
But back to Klay. I appreciate the awareness. And I feel like this is what I'm not getting out of Wiggins, right? I'm not hearing Wiggins also say, I played like crap and I need to get better. And maybe it's just because we don't get to talk to Wiggins as much.
True.
Or, you know, that is a difference, I think. But that self-reflection, that self-awareness that's one part of it. But then you now have to adjust. Something has to happen. And I'm wondering, there was a mention here about, you know, why can't they get to change their game a little bit? Go in for the mid-range shot, go to the basket. I've missed the comment now, but I think that's a good point. Like, what do you think about that? Andrew
Wiggins also has had the worst defensive rating on the Warriors this season. So it's not like it's just that a shot isn't falling. It's all the other parts where if your shot isn't falling, go get the rebounds, be a defensive menace, be the athlete that Andrew Wiggins is. But right now, it just seems a little disjointed. So that's a big question mark that needs an answer very soon for the Warriors.
All right, we're back on Dubs Talk Live, looking ahead for the Warriors, looking at the Clippers. So, right now, Warriors are split between the Clippers, and both games really close. You think about that last game that they've dropped, it wasn't until the last 8 seconds that the Clippers actually got the lead and then ended up winning the game in overtime. It was as if they were lethargic throughout the entire game and then woke up at the very last bit and then in overtime. Clippers are doing great. They beat the Kings pretty handedly tonight. And you think about the fact that they know they're playing at home and they want to be on a roll. What do you expect out of the Warriors as they try to regroup from this loss going to back to California?
You just brought up the word lethargic, and that's the word that the Warriors cannot be against this Clippers team. They need to bring the energy. I'm looking at the youth. I'm looking at Moses Moody. I'm looking at Jonathan Kuminga, Brandon Podziemski. Jonathan Kuminga really asserted himself down low as he's been doing. That's what they're going to have to do against a team that's a little bit older. Bring the energy. Cannot be lethargic. Cannot be lackadaisical. Bring the energy.
Well, Zena, Keita, Dalton, Johnson, appreciate you all watching and bringing the energy. For tonight, that's all on Dubs Talk Live. Thanks for joining us. I felt like tonight's show rushed through. We didn't get to talk about Jonathan Kuminga. There was so much, but we needed to hear from Draymond. We needed to hear from Steph. I mean, we'll hear probably more clips as well. Just make sure to keep tuned on Warriors on NBCS on Twitter, because we're going to get some clips from Klay as well, and you know, some of his thoughts on his play. There's already some really great clips of what Podziemski had to say. I'll be curious to see if Kuminga takes the stand. The stand. Oh my God. The podium. Excuse me. Maybe it is the stand after the incident that happened. No, I'm just joking. But no, takes the podium to talk about his performance, because he was phenomenal. And what I want to hear from Chris Paul too, because you think about someone that while he was out, there was a lot of questions of like, is this a positive, in the sense that he has such a different style of play, Chris Paul, from what Steph Curry, what Podziemski provide in terms of downhill, even Corey Joseph when he's in, like pushing the ball downhill, quick transition play. And then Chris Paul came in and was like, excuse me, I can do that too. And you see the alley that he threw up to Kuminga. You saw the pushes. You saw, you know, the drives and kicks. You saw him being aggressive offensively. I mean, I don't think I've ever just seen Chris Paul, in this season at least, Chris Paul dribble out the court before his teammates even beat him down the court. Up 3. I mean, it was really, really a comeback game for him too, that we didn't get to talk about as much, and was kind of outshined in the midst of everything that happened between the loss and Draymond. But I was very impressed with Kuminga tonight.
Yeah, I think honestly, as far as Chris Paul goes, you go from a game in OKC where you have 29 turnovers for 35 points by the Thunder, and the Warriors, they really cleaned up the turnovers in major ways tonight. I mean, Chris Paul, 11 assists, 1 turnover, his 4th double-double of the season. The alley-oop obviously is what stands out the most because we've been looking and waiting for that Chris Paul, Jonathan Kuminga connection. We know what Chris Paul has done for
all
athletes in the
preseason.
past.
That was the conversation.
Yes.
What is he going to do? Unlock Kuminga. And I mean, tonight was a great example.
You saw a huge smile on Kuminga's face after that alley-oop. So really good games from both of them. And I think you brought up a good point, too, when it came to Chris Paul kind of racing forward, finding that three-pointer. It was a good kind of balancing game for Chris Paul to play his style and Warrior style. And they're just trying to find that middle ground when it comes to the two because, sure, there still are fit questions. And there still also are heavily ways where you can see how much Chris Paul impacts in positive ways for the Warriors as well. So I think if they can find that middle ground, that's going to bring the Warriors way, way closer to who they want to really be.
1,000%. And what was so frustrating, I'll just say this before we wrap, you look at all the good things they're doing, and yet still 51 versus 41 rebounds, 26 to 27 assists, so in that same range. But if you get close to that, almost 30 in assists, that's amazing. Same amount of turnovers, but they were not able to capitalize as much off of the Warriors' turnovers as much as the Warriors were able to capitalize on the Suns' turnovers, which is usually not the case. So there are little elements of their games that are improving, but still just not enough to be able to get the win. So on to the Clippers they go. Back to Cali they come. And we'll see what happens in the morning.
At the end of the day, look, I believe that Draymond Green is going to be suspended.
Yeah.
I just do. And at the end of the day, also, we can praise the bench as much as we want. But if Steph Curry only has 12 points from the rest of the starters, the Warriors aren't going to win. It's just
absolutely not.
It's as simple as that. There might be changes to the rotation. Maybe there will be the starters. I don't know. But if he doesn't get the help that he needs, this is who the Warriors are going to be.
Yeah, I agree. All righty, folks. It's a late night. We appreciate you sticking with us. Our YouTube fam, as always, we appreciate you. Tough one tonight. Try and get some sleep. Good night. It's been Dubs Talk Live.